Camino to Santiago? Here's 12 reasons that say you can do it. If you want to get lost, you really have to put your mind to it. Gone are the days where you have to fight with a damp paper map that's flapping in the wind, as there's waymarkers pretty much everywhere. You don't even need to rely on your smartphone. But if you do get stuck, most Camino apps have GPS-enabled maps, and there's also Google Maps. You could consider adding in the Camino path into the mapping app. If you want a budget-friendly Camino, then you can have one. It's actually not that difficult to get costs down to less than 50 euros a day. Accommodation costs are potentially each day's largest expense, but it's one that can be minimised by staying in hostels or albergues. If you are happy to stay in an albergue, then for around 15 euros, you can stay in a private one. You can get a bed in a dormitory in a hostel with good facilities. A breakfast of toast and coffee will be less than 3 euros. A cheap lunch from a supermarket could be as little as 5 euros or so. Some refreshing afternoon beers could be 4 euros. And if you want to splash out on dinner, then for 15 euros you can probably get 2 courses, which includes bread and wine. So all that makes around 45 euros a day. Don't be put off by the religious angle. Only about 36% of people walk solely for religious reasons. According to the official stats from the Pilgrim's Office at Santiago, from a total of around 180,000 arrivals into Santiago for the year 2021, the largest group is for religious or other. That other could be anything and could include walking for spiritual reasons, looking for a physical challenge, being interested in the cultural immersion, and increasingly wanting to switch off from technology. You really don't have to be that fit to walk a Camino. Indeed, if you choose one of the more popular routes, like the Camino France or the Portuguese from Porto, then you might only have to walk 5 to 10 kilometers a day, because the places to stay can be that close together. A mistake a lot of people make is to go crazy with the distances on the first few days, only to have to soon count the cost in terms of blisters, strains, and fatigue. Better to start slow and gradually build up the distances as your body gets used to its new daily fitness regime. You can use the Camino to train for the Camino. If you do want to walk the Camino on a budget, you'll find that that approach can have its advantages. The highlight of most people's Caminos is the sheer variety of people you'll meet and the sense of community you'll get as a result. Sleeping with strangers in a dorm room is an experience most people can embrace while they're young, but on the Camino, even for oldies like me, it can become quite normal. You can also save money on food if you club together and use the communal kitchens to cook together. If you're up for it, the bonding over preparing and eating a shared meal can really do the trick. You might even find yourself a part of a Camino family, though that's not obligatory. If money is not such an issue, then single or double rooms can be quite easy to come by. Many hostels have these, as well as the dorms. As you'll be mostly in rural areas, these rooms can be quite cheap. For example, on the Via de la Plata, I paid just the €12 pilgrim rate for the Hostel Extremadura in Monasterio. The single room was small, but nice and clean. The popular Camino France takes 4 to 5 weeks, including rest days. But you may have some kind of annoying job, which means that you only want to use a week at a time, let's say, of your precious holiday. No problem. Many pilgrims walk their Camino in stages. For example, on the Camino France, walking roughly 25 kilometers a day, in a week you can walk the 160 kilometers or so from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to Logroño, the city at the centre of the wine region of Rioja. Just come back next year to pick up where you left off. If you're exhausted, take a rest day. There's a plethora of great places that let you switch into tourist mode. This can be quite a controversial one, but compared to doing it by yourself, you can expect to pay 2 or 3 times more if you join an organised tour group. Okay, so you do have someone else finding your accommodation and transporting your bags, but all of this is pretty easy to do yourself once you get into the swing of things. If it's a group of fellow pilgrims to walk with that you're after, then this can happen quite naturally along the Camino anyway. I found that I could pretty much get by on just these 2 phrases. Una caña por favor and una cama para mañana por favor. Beyond that, Google Translate can work wonders. It's your Camino, so is your rules. To earn your Compostela or Certificate of Completion, you only have to walk the final 100 kilometers to Santiago. Blisters causing discomfort? Get a taxi.
New backpack rubbing your skin raw?
Get a bus. Of course, it will be satisfying to have made it to Santiago under your own steam and to be able to say you didn't cheat. But sometimes discretion is the better part of valour. Better to get a taxi for that day's last 5 kilometres than to risk doing yourself a mischief, causing you to have to give up on your Camino. Perhaps a Camino jaunt on your own feels like a big step, but as a good 30% of pilgrims go solo, you'll be in good company. There are many ways to approach a Camino, but going solo has its advantages. For example, you'll be way more approachable, so it can be easy to find as many new walking buddies as you want. I've pretty much always started out going solo, as I've really enjoyed the solitude of the early morning walking, when it's just me, the birds, the mountains, and my blisters. The Caminos that crisscross Spain, Portugal, and France can be walked year-round, so you don't have to limit yourself to the busy summer months if you don't want to. If you're up for a February or March start, for example, then the Caminos that start in the south of Spain, like the Via de la Plata from Seville, would be worth considering. Overthinking is probably the main thing holding you back. At the end of the day, it's just a walk, so if you can do that, you can do your Camino. Just book the flight or the train to your starting point. The rest will just fall into place. Buen Camino.